Hello and welcome to Waukesha. In this brief family tutorial video, we're going to talk a little bit about the expectations for students and families and give you some of the details you need to know about our Waukesha One one-to-one iPad program. Let's start talking about our expectations at school. It's our expectation that students are going to show up with their device charged and present every day. If you find that charging your iPad becomes problematic, especially if you send the charger to and from school, you may wish to consider an extra purchase of a charger at home. Keep in mind, that's at the family's expense though. We do have a series of appropriate use guidelines that are enforced when it comes to student use of technology. We ask that you follow those guidelines closely and that you follow them both when you're at school and when you're outside of school. You should know as a family and as students that your devices can be monitored and collected while you're at school. These devices belong to the School District of Waukesha. Through our back-end monitoring system, we have the ability to view things such as the amount of storage that's on the iPad, the apps that are installed, as well as other details about the hardware. We also do allow staff to do random searches of devices as they see fit, and this can include collection of the devices and retention of the devices. It's really important to note, though, that the cameras on our devices cannot be monitored by district staff. Let's talk a little bit about the apps you're going to need to support your learning. Within the iPad one-to-one environment in the School District of Waukesha, we have an app called Self-Service. This allows approved apps to be placed on student iPads without an Apple ID being needed or present. Now, we do have what we call a core set of apps. The core apps simply mean that students and teachers both have access to the apps and are a stable platform on which we can plan instructional activities. There's a $25 digital resources fee associated with the core apps and other digital tools that we have, and this helps us to cover the cost of providing these resources for students. It is important to note, though, that teachers in required classes are not allowed to require an additional app that would incur additional costs. Also, you should know that app requests from school district staff do go through a rigorous filtering process to check for items such as privacy and appropriateness for students. Let's talk just a little bit about customizing the iPad. At this point, cases are provided to keep your iPads safe. While students may want to have their own unique cases with their own unique looks, it's important to know that the iPad cases that the iPads came in must remain on the devices. As soon as we remove an iPad from the case, it voids the district insurance on damaged iPads. One of the questions we often get about iPads and about the cases we provide is a question about keyboarding. While most of our students have little issue using the on-screen keyboarding and the touch typing that happens on the iPad, if an external keyboard is really necessary, there are two ways we can go about getting an iPad keyboard. Families may purchase an iPad keyboard that is either hardwired or Bluetooth. The other option is to use an external keyboard that's available here at school. Let's talk damage and responsibility. The reality is that sometimes bad things happen. And when something is damaged on the iPad or no longer working, we want to assure you that our goal is to return the damaged device to school as quickly as possible and to return the student to learning just as quickly. When an issue arises where a device is damaged, we ask that we return the iPad to school in the appropriate location. From there, a support staff will help with a loaner device, meaning that the student will be able to use this device to return to learning as quickly as possible. When the iPad is fixed after a few days or possibly a few weeks, the student will be notified and will swap the loaner device for the student's original iPad. Now, you should be aware that sometimes damage may incur charges. Let's start with the good news. If accidental damage does happen to the iPad while it is in the provided protective case, accidental damage in the case will result in no charges to the family. However, as soon as the iPad is removed from the protective case, the family is now potentially on the hook for the full repair cost of the device. This could be up to the full replacement cost of the device. One other side note. In an instance where the iPad was kept in the protective case, but it has been determined that breakage was intentional or repeated, at that point, the individual will be dealt with independent of these rules, and the families will be notified. Just remember, keep the iPad in the provided case. Also, sometimes theft can happen, and when theft does happen, you should know that theft is covered by insurance at no cost to the student, provided the following are met. Families must file a police report. Nobody from the School District of Waukesha will be able to file a police report for theft for you. You will then need to provide us with a copy of the police report, and from there you'll be worked with on an individual basis to determine responsibility. On the other hand, loss is not covered by insurance. If an iPad is lost, the families will be assessed the full replacement cost of the device. So keep those iPads nearby and know where they are at all times. Finally, let's just talk about a couple of expectations you might want to set at home. While we monitor closely internet use at school, when an iPad goes home, you'll want to monitor use while at home. Setting up something like the Open DNS filter on your home network is one free, easy way for you to have some parental control to determine what your son or daughter has access to while at home on the internet. Also, we encourage you to think about restricting the device as you see fit. We do provide a core set of restrictions that we feel are appropriate for most students, but one of the strengths of our program is the ability for families to put further restrictions on the device as they see fit. You should note, though, that some restrictions will disallow students from participating in certain activities while at school. When this happens, generally, an educator from the school district will get in contact with you to talk about how we can resolve the issue if possible. Finally, let's talk about device check-in. Our goal is to help you maintain control at home. It's important to note that these devices, while they are being cared for and looked after by the students, do not belong to the students. They belong to the School District of Waukesha. As a result, we encourage you to have regular check-ins on the device, just as we will at school from time to time. We also encourage you to put limits on things like screen time to help you maintain some balance over the student's use of digital media. Considering rules like having perhaps a device turn in before bed, or placing devices only in common areas to be used, or keeping them in places that are not close to the student's bed or where they sleep, are key ways to keep ahead of any overuse of the device. Thanks for your time. Just know that we're in this together, and we want to provide some incredible opportunities for your child while they're in the School District of Waukesha.